This is Sean Covich, head golf coach at West Virginia University. You're listening to Chasing Birdies.
Hey guys, welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Chasing Birdies. My man.
What's shaking, Bacon?
Not much, baby. I tell you what, man. It's I don't know about you, but this fall weather has been exceptional for a little late summer golfing right now, huh?
Oh man, it's been incredible. You know, today's episode, it's nice to have fall weather and drink a nice little crisp beer. So today's episode is brought to you by Lynx Brewing. Go check them out at lynxbrewing.com. Obviously, they make the Chasing Birdie Blonde Ale, which is out of this world. I crushed about 10 of them on Saturday night. Kids probably babysat me instead of me babysitting them. But other than that, it is dynamite right now. But we played a quick 9 at Nemacolin this past Wednesday. So
yeah, no, that was fun, but it was nice to see you in person, in human form. I know shit's been crazy lately. You've been traveling, I've been traveling a little bit, but we're back right now. Man, it feels good to be back and here on the podcast, Chasing Birdies. Before we get into today's guest, Sean Covich, head coach of West Virginia University, let's talk a little bit about what the hell is happening right now in Pittsburgh with the Squealers. I mean, that was an absolute ass kicking.
But I think it's time to start getting worried here. If you're a fan, because this is not good. This is not good at all. I don't even think the quarterback is their issue. I think they got 100 other issues that they've let build up, and now this is what you're dealt with.
It is. It's sad, man, because the player, we got great players when you think about it, you know, but something's off somewhere, and there's no synergy. Everyone is just kind of running around with their heads. The best part about that whole game was this. I took the over 44.5, and halftime it's 31-3. I'm like, shit, all I need is 2 touchdowns to hit the over. Like, it's a freaking lock, right? Pittsburgh can't forget about the 2 missed field goals. First off, bud, you're down 25 fucking points. Why are you kicking a field goal, number one? But forget about the 2 missed field goals. They only scored 1 touchdown the whole second half. The under hits. That was some shit right there, man.
I mean, I said last Wednesday, I said hammer plus 14 on the Steelers. I felt so confident they're going to come out flying, guns a-blazing. Yeah. The Bills haven't been playing great football, but they proved us wrong, bud. So,
yeah, and you know,
there's a reason why that line. That's their worst loss. It's the worst loss since 1989 for the Steelers.
But you're yelling. Bud. I know. I can hear it in the tone of your voice. I mean, the colors here on the decimal reading just hit red. But, you know, switching over to golf a little bit, you had this cat on the Live Tour. And the irony of it all is he came from Oklahoma State, right, which is Big 12, which is West Virginia. And what did he rake in this past weekend? Like 4.2 mil?
How you doing?
Good for him. Here we are. Lives around. It's going to stay. Greenbrier's happening end of July.
Yeah, and they're paying the old Greenbrier 25 mil. The rumor is.
Yeah, that's what
so good for the Greenbrier. Extra little change for the boys down there. Everyone's happy, and I'm sure the Greenbrier will get some changes made on the course as well for that event. Make it a little longer, and I'm sure the Live Tour is paying for that. But
yeah,
today's guest, dude, had the Big 12 championship at the Greenbrier. He tells us some pretty cool stories. Sean Covich, just a great guy. I mean, I met him through you down at the Pete Dye Golf Club and member guest, and I've got to know him since. And the guy's just a gem. I know you're really close with him.
Oh my God, no! Sean is he's a great guy, and he's got
just a cool story, dude.
Yeah, it's starting that program from zero and has been able to accomplish what he's been able to accomplish thus far. And you know, I believe in that golf program. I'm a supporter of WVU men's golf. You know, so being able to carve out some time with Coach Covich on today's episode of Chasing Birdies was an absolute honor. And, you know, it's a cool story. Excited to see where he takes the team in the future. But I feel like we should just take it on into this bad boy right now. Here we go. Sean Covich, WVU. I heard it. I love it. All right, y'all. We're back here for another episode of Chasing Birdies. And today's guest watches that on the weekly, on the monthly, as he is the head men's golf coach at West Virginia University. We have Sean Covich in the house today. Mr. Sean, what's shaking, baby?
Oh, not much. Just right in the middle of our fall season, getting ready for a big stretch, Big 12 match play.
Yeah,
and,
man.
Alworth.
I feel like you and I used to play golf a lot together the last couple of years down in Pete Dye. And I'm kind of sad because the last year, the last 12 months, I have not played any golf with you. That's bullshit.
I know. That's just part of the job. I think during COVID, gosh, we had so much time. There was a dead period in recruiting, and literally all you could do was play golf.
Yeah.
And so we played a ton. It was a lot of fun. I got to play in a bunch of member guests and club championships and just all kind of stuff in the Open, the AM. Didn't make the cut in those, but
hey, you had a good time.
Had a great time. But now, you guys know I got a son that's 10 years old now, Keenan, and he's in the golf, he's in the baseball, he's in the flag football. So I made a decision this summer. I'm going to do one of three things every day: watch him play sports, go out and recruit, and then just be with the family. Like that's pretty much it. So I either watching him play or hanging out.
Well, you have a lovely family. Keenan, as you said, he's so fun to be around. And your wife, Kate, she's awesome. So you're in good hands, my man.
The first time I met him was at the Pete Dyke member guest.
Oh, boy.
And so it was fun.
That was pre-COVID.
Yeah, it was pre-COVID. And we had a lot of fun, though. So it was always a good time to hang out with him. And I do have to, we'll get to it, but the member guest up at Nemacolin, and we'll have to talk about the drive off the rock wall.
Did you play with Todd and Isley in that event?
I was supposed to, and Todd they had their first child, and so he thought he could play, but you know how that goes. So he was pulled out of the tournament. So I got Doug Wallace to play with me and watch Pepe hit the luckiest shot in all of golf.
So, yeah. Bud, we're at Nemacolin. We're in the back nine. Our match on Mystic.
Mm-hmm.
10, 11, 12, 13, the dog leg around the lake. We tee off, and I hit one that was leaking what we thought was in the water. And so everyone hits their shots, and then, Sean hits one up there to like 3 feet probably, a second shot. We get up there, but there's my ball like that far away from the hole. It hit the wall, the rock wall.
It was going in the water, hit the rock wall, went forward and towards the hole like 80 yards, and nobody do it. I mean, he was getting ready to drop it, and I hit it in close. He's like, all right, you guys probably won the hole. And he gets up there. Is this your ball? Yeah.
Wow.
He made it too.
So, but
did you make the putt? I'm surprised.
Well, no, he was kind enough to give it to me.
It was so close.
I mean, dude, it literally, you could have blown it in this hole. Mm-hmm. It was so close.
Yeah.
But went from the outhouse to the in-house real quick.
Sometimes
it's funny how golf is.
It's better to be lucky than good, my man.
Hey, one more member guest story. The first time we met, this is probably 2018-ish. We played that member guest, and we had a 10. We had a tensome playing number 10.
Uh-huh.
Maybe 2 people were wearing shoes. The rest were barefoot. And we played number 10, a scramble, and then we played from 10 green back to 18 green at Pete Dye.
Yep.
And like 4 people finished.
Yeah, I remember that.
We were losing people left and right. Wow. So
if you did that today,
I was going to say you can't do that today, bud.
You gone. No, but so tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're from Mississippi. You kind of not randomly, but you're in West Virginia now. But what happened after you played college golf, coaching career? Kind of tell us a little bit about how you ended up here, West Virginia.
Oh wow, it was just getting completely lucky. I played college golf, junior college golf, which barely counts. I mean,
that still counts.
Like 78 scoring average. So played for 2 years at Meridian Community College, and then went to Mississippi State just to enjoy college, be a student, go to football games, get my degree, obviously, but have a good time there. And after that, I just knew I wanted to work in sports. My dad was a club pro, PGA club pro. And so he gave me some really good advice because I thought about going the PGM route. Mm-hmm. He said, you don't want to do that. He was like, do you like to play golf? I said, I love to play golf. He's like, well, I'm at the shop, 7 days a week. I barely get to play. If you want to play golf, go be successful in something, and then you can enjoy golf rather than, it being your job every day. So that was pretty good advice for me. But I ended up back in the golf industry, Mississippi Golf Association run their junior tour event. And then my coach at Meridian Community College retired, and they thought, well, this guy knows all the junior golfers in Mississippi. His dad's a club pro in town. He played here. Like, let's offer him the job. And I was 25 or 26 at the time, and that's how I got into coaching. And then, from there, I got some really good advice from, coaches in the SEC, because we were trying to recruit good players. I had 2 national championship players at the junior college level, and the SEC coaches were, just telling me, look, treat your junior college program like it's LSU, like it's Alabama, like it's, you're in the SEC. Do everything like we do, and in a couple of years, somebody will notice, and maybe you'll get a job. And so I got to Mississippi State. That's what happened.
Were you an assistant there or the head coach?
I was a head coach at junior college, and then became the assistant coach at Mississippi State for 3 years. And then this job, you just heard about it because West Virginia is joining the Big 12, and you heard that they were going to start a men's golf program, but really didn't know like what year and when they start competing. But anytime you saw like the Flying WV, it was like, wow, that's a big time athletic program. Because I grew up obviously in Mississippi and SEC country, but I knew about Coach Huggins. I knew about Jerry West. I knew about, going to the Fiesta Bowl and Geno Smith and, just all the great tradition that goes on, Don Nealon. And so I was like, wow, that would be pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And here we are.
So you applied for the job when you heard about it, and were you in the running with other coaches?
Oh, yeah.
Or, I mean, obviously it's a big time program as far as athletics is concerned, but let's be honest, we're in West Virginia, Morgantown, West Virginia, where golf is not exactly a hot topic here. I mean, it's kind of died off in the last in the last 20 years, I'd say. So what made you get to, I wanted to interview it, and if I get it, we're moving to Morgantown, West Virginia?
Well, I was assistant coach. So the reason you are an assistant is to hopefully be a head coach, one day. And the unique opportunity of starting it from scratch was such a selling point to me, rather than taking over for a program that hadn't been successful, so they fired their coach, or a program that had been successful and your job is to maintain it or you're going to lose your job. This was just a blank slate. A blank canvas that you could start from scratch. And that meant a lot of hard work and a lot of, frustration at the beginning. But at the same time, you can look back and say, hey, wow, we built this from literally nothing. When I got here, I didn't have an office. I didn't have a golf ball, didn't have a tournament to play in, nowhere to practice, no tournament to host, just nothing. And so it was, there was no like, oh, here's the manual on building a program from scratch in the highly competitive Big 12. It was just like, let's try to figure it out. But yeah, there were other coaches. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I was their top choice. Like, I know I was way down the list. I always like to tell people I was just crazy enough to take it. The other people were like,
it was a chance.
Oh yeah, big time.
You're like I said, I mean, how many people wake up in the morning and want to move to Morgantown, West Virginia? Don't get me wrong. I love it, dude. I'm not saying anything, bud. I'm just saying in general, all right? Calm down.
Well, from a golf perspective, there are warmer, better places, right? With more golf courses. But at the same time, I think it takes that mountaineer spirit for, a kid to commit here, just like it did for us. We lived 34 years in Mississippi, and, I remember when they offered me the job, Kate was in a meeting, and so I kept calling her, and I just went to her office, finally got her out of the meeting. I was like, hey, they offered me a job. I'm going to take it. And she was like, well, can't see how you can turn that down. She wasn't, like,
she wasn't excited.
Right. But she loves it. She loves it now. But it is tough, moving your family when you have a 2-year-old up here. And we didn't know anybody in the state of West Virginia. I'd only been in West Virginia one time. That was during my interview. But now Keenan, all he knows is Morgantown, WVU, West Virginia, Mountaineers, and he absolutely loves it.
So you get the job. You literally have, like you said, you have nothing, dude. I mean, and for people that are listening that don't know much about college golf, generally speaking, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's about 8 to 9 on each team, maybe a little bit more. 5 players travel to every event. Unless you're playing as an individual, then you're considered a 6 player, but you're not playing part of the team game. You have 0 players, and you're going. So did they give you a year to recruit and then get into the season, or how did that work? That whole, because again, like you said, you're building a program from literally nothing.
Yeah, I was hired June of 2014, and our first tournament, like we were going to play as a team, was 2015, September of 15. So I had maybe 14 months to get 9 players together, get a schedule. I was sharing, it wasn't even an office. It was like a cubicle with some GAs and marketing, so when I bring in a recruit, it's, you got some other students, GAs back there doing stuff. So it was kind of weird.
Hey, bud, can I use your cubicle? I got a recruit coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Steal somebody else's office for like an hour. But we just kind of made it work. And this was before the transfer portal. So this was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So transfers were like really, it was like the black market. It was just like really weird process back then. They might even have to sit out a year and all this stuff. I just knew my goal was not to get, 8 freshmen, because that would be my team for 4 years and we wouldn't be very good. But if I could sprinkle in a couple of seniors, a couple of juniors, a couple of sophomores, and then bring in a recruiting class of 2 or 3, and then those seniors would roll off the roster and I could bring in another recruiting class of 2 or 3. And then by our 3rd or 4th year, we would be pretty good. And that's what happened.
Would you say, and you've built a freaking golf program.
Yeah.
Yes, you have a golf team at WVU, but you're actually in it, right? You are consistently a top 50 team in the country, if not lower, the last couple of years. That's pretty freaking impressive.
Yeah.
And that speaks to you as a person as well. I don't want to give you too many.
Right. Well, like I said, good players help. And just letting you guys know how we built it, we just tried to, with those recruiting classes, and I thought by the 4th year we would look like a pretty good team. And that's what happened. I think our 4th year we made it to the NCAA regionals, and we almost went to the national finals by 2 shots. We missed out. We lost to Louisville for the 5th spot. They take the top 5 at each regional. We were 6th. Oklahoma State was at that regional. Auburn was at that regional. Louisville was playing their home course at that regional. We missed about 2 shots with a 4 putt and a lost ball in 18. So not that I still think about it, but
you do.
but it was coal to be.
Yeah,
it was like, man,
yeah.
4 years from nothing to then. And of course, COVID has kind of put a whole roadblock and everything, but we're trying to get back on our feet and had some really good players the last few years.
So at that point in time, 2014, now you got 14 months to start recruiting. When did Pete Dye Golf Club come into play as the home course for West Virginia University? Out the gate, did you know where the team was going to be stationed, so to speak? Like what course? Morgantown, slim pickings. You got the Pines and Lakeview, right?
Right.
In all seriousness, so when did that whole deal work out with Pete Dye that this was going to be the club? Was it out the gate, or was that something you kind of had to massage a little bit?
Well, here's where I'd like to be as honest and transparent as I can. So when I'm in my office as an assistant coach at Mississippi State looking at this job, the first thing I do, like any golfer would do, is I Google Morgantown golf courses. And a couple of things pop up, but the main one would be Pikewood.
Right.
Pikewood pops up and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like drone footage. It looks like Oakmont on top of Cooper's Rock. It's just like unbelievable. And then you see the Pines, and like Pines is like kind of the local quality country club, old school. Like that looks pretty good. You see Lakeview, you're like, you don't know what that is, but it looks pretty good. So I'm like, okay, but Pikewood is like the big thing. And so go through the interview process, and a lot of it is me talking about my, resume, my experience and stuff. And so anyhow, I get up here in person. WVU, they picked me up at Pittsburgh Airport, hop in the car with the guy that worked for the MAC at the time, and I said, so tell me about Pikewood. And so from that point until we got here, it's like, well, not sure that's going to work out, but we'll see. But, and I'd never even heard of Pete Dye, honestly, because it's in Bridgeport, right? So I'm looking at Morgantown. But he did mention, he was like, hey, there's Pete Dye Golf Club, and there's some members there. They want to, at some point, have you guys down there. What does that look like? I don't know, but just know that's an option. And that's kind of how it started out. Our first year, we went down there, I don't know, 3 to 5 times a semester, and usually on Tuesdays after 3:00. Like, never really felt like this is home. But the more we just sort of got to know them, and then they had a ownership change, and that really helped us.
Yeah, that would have helped. Yep.
To be honest, and that really helped out a lot. And I don't know, we just kind of worked out a great relationship, really. And I think our guys understand how important that place is, and they treat everybody well, and just try to blend in.
I mean, it is a great spot for a home course. I mean, top 10 layout in my opinion. So yeah, it kind of worked out in your favor because, like I said, outside of that, and obviously axing Pikewood from the rotation, you got 2 options. And the cool thing, though, for those listening that don't know too much about West Virginia men's golf, but they have access to Nemacolin.
Yes.
So when you really think about it, yeah, it's a northern golf program in West Virginia, but they have 2 top facilities for their guys to work out.
And that's what honestly, that's what it takes for somebody like Coach Covich to get good players. You have to have facilities. They're incredible. You're in the Northeast. You're already one strike against everybody else that's, south or west. So you've got to have great facilities. You got to have the indoor facility where you can putt, chip. You got the TrackMan in there.
Yep.
I mean, it's an investment from the program too to get these recruits. So it's you think about it, there's been programs around for 50 years that's never made it to the NCAA tournament, and Coach Covich comes into Morgantown with literally nothing. Bud, why didn't you get recruited by WVU? You had one more year left.
Yeah, well, I asked actually at some point, but I think Fairmont State was on me pretty good. I could probably still go back out there.
You got one more year.
Yeah, but I'm not.
The problem we always said the problem with Bash playing at Fairmont State right now at 35 years old would be traveling by van. Because you know damn well he's going to shove and say, no, boys, we're getting on the plane. Let's go.
They would like that then.
They would
if he got on the team, yeah.
But no, so recruiting. Let's talk about that a little bit. As you said earlier, this was before the transfer portal, your first year, and you wanted to sprinkle in some guys at different levels, senior, juniors, whatnot. So how did you navigate that? I mean, you just send them random emails, calling, like, how do you get a hold of these kids at some point, right? I mean, you're just reaching out to them.
Well, I think the announcement that we were joining the Big 12 and that we were starting men's golf, we did get some, kids that wanted to transfer in. And some of those worked out well, like Alan Cook, Chris Williams, both West Virginia natives that were, Alan was at a Division II school in South Carolina. Chris was playing for Coastal Carolina, but, in and out of the lineup. And I think chance to come home and go, hey, like, I could probably play a lot. And that's what happened for both those guys. And Alan ended up winning the AM, West Virginia AM, after his second year here, which was pretty cool. So, but yeah, Max Sear, who's a guy right now in Korn Ferry Q School right now. He's playing on the Canadian tour. He was part of that first recruiting class. And honestly, I just got lucky. I got hired in June, and then that July, I'm at the U.S. Junior AM, and I'm actually watching a kid from West Virginia who was like in 8th grade at the time, Colin Bowles, and he ended up going to Georgia Southern. Well, he went to Ohio State and then transferred to Georgia Southern. But I'm down there watching Colin. He's paired with these 2 random Canadian kids, and after about 3 holes, I'm like, where are they going to school? In a practice round, and one of them was Max Sear. I said, well, can we get you on a visit? And he said, well, I'm supposed to visit Winthrop, which is down in South Carolina, and like Elon. I'm like, well, you need to look at West Virginia because it's like big time. Like, we're about to play a good schedule. And he came in, he committed, and he played. I think right now, he's the only player to play all 4 years in the starting lineup every single tournament. Even Etienne Papineau missed one tournament. Even Mark Getz missed a few, but Max Sear was the only one so far. So
lefty.
Sometimes you just get lucky, right, in recruiting. And it's like you you're watching some other kid, and then you see another one and go, oh, wow, what about him?
So you talk about recruiting. We have somebody in our backyard, Mason Williams, which great kid. Everyone knows Mason. Obviously, you try to recruit him.
Yes.
Multiple
times.
I would assume very hard.
Yes.
I mean, somebody like that. Again, it's like he goes to Georgia Southern. As a coach, do you still stay in touch, even though he is a friend of yours? I mean, it's not like you're tampering with the scholarship, but do you stay in touch with somebody like that? Do you still check in? Because who's to say that in 2 years at Georgia Southern, whenever he was a sophomore, he wasn't happy, and you could get him back in? How does that work in the college athletic?
Yeah, I think for our sport, it's definitely a lot different than, say, football or basketball, where it's very heated in recruiting and it's just cutthroat. I try to treat recruiting, and most other coaches, I assume, this way. It's just like if Keenan were being recruited, I just wanted, Mason or whoever, Max Sear or any kid that we recruit, I want them to be 100% sure on their decision. Now, whether that's West Virginia, Georgia Southern, or Mississippi State, I really don't care. I just want them to make sure, like, if you choose that school, that's a school you want to go to. You weren't talked into it, or, you're kind of 50-50. It's like, you need to be excited. And if you're not excited about coming to West Virginia, then we don't want you.
You don't want,
yeah. And if you're not excited about going to Southern Mississippi, like, you probably shouldn't go there. Right. So that was the whole deal with any kid. Obviously we keep up with Mason. We saw him before he committed. We'd see him every time we went to Pete Dye, I watched him play multiple junior tournaments across, this area. And, at the end of the day, he's got to pick where he wants to go. And I think he made a great decision. Georgia Southern's got a great history in golf. Got one of the most fun home events. Y'all need to do a live cast actually from the Schenkel Invitational in Statesboro, Georgia. Because we're going down there. We went last year. It was the first time we ever played in it. And after one day, I'm like, we're coming back. Like, it's in March, and it's I call it the member guest of college golf. Yeah, it's just unlike a small town that just rallies around a fun event. So y'all need to do that.
Hey, bud, why don't you reach out to their people, huh?
Yeah.
Now, again, I don't want to put anybody in a bad position here, but now NIL is a real thing. Now players can get paid. Are you hearing of this in the college golf? Because we know in football, we know in basketball, it's happening, and it's been happening for years. Now it's just legal. Do you see golfers getting, hey, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, we'll give you having people jump on board to do this?
Oh yeah. Every school's a little bit different, but yeah, you're definitely seeing it. I mean, even our guys are taking advantage of the name, image, likeness deal. Might not be as big and prevalent as, say, an Oklahoma State or maybe a Texas or something like that. But yeah, there's opportunities there for kids to kind of get some money. I think it's an opportunity. You kind of figure out what your market value is a little bit. And for some kids, it's humbling. And then for some kids, like, wow, there's an opportunity here. And a lot of times it might not even have to do with how good you are, but maybe where you're from or, other, people in your area that just want to support you. But I think it's good because, it's tough for these kids and these families. Everybody thinks, if you play golf, you got a ton of money. It's not true for every single kid. And so if you can scrape together a couple of $1,000 here or there each semester, or maybe even more, that could go a long way. Yeah. So I think it's good as long as we put some guardrails, on it. But so far, yeah, it is showing up in golf.
Like you said, the money's not as big as it is in the college football and basketball world. But my whole thing with the NIL is, yeah, they deserve it. That's cool and all. But at the same time, like these football players are getting $1 million. Like, they're 18 years old. But I mean, can we give them like $100,000 to do what they want to do? Put the $900,000 into an account for them to where they can't touch it till they're 25, and be responsible and let them learn how to handle this, right? Because let's be honest, it's not guaranteed they're going to be in the NFL. They're one injury away from being out, and then that $900,000 or that $1 million could go a long way for one of those kids. So for me, that's my only kind of nitpicking on the NIL deal.
You are so responsible. I love it.
Well, part of this process, though, our guys are learning about taxes and paying taxes, and so I know at least at our school, they do a good job of saying, okay, you're going to get, this amount of money, but you need to realize you're also going to have to pay taxes on this. This is different from scholarship money.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of kids are kind of learning that it's not just free money and, just go spend it. Like, you need to save some for taxes. You need to invest. So hopefully they are learning that.
Let me ask you this. And this is my opinion. This is not a fact. This is my opinion. I think it's difficult for West Virginia to compete in the Big 12. My opinion. Why do I say that? Look at the schools that they're going up against. Football, basketball. A football team, hopefully this year they continue on their path. But I think it's just a tough conference to be in for West Virginia. Travel schedule. But do you think that from a golf perspective, you're recruiting guys that get to go up and play against the Hovlands at Oklahoma State, the Speeds at Texas? In some respect, that would be a great recruiting tool, I feel.
Yeah,
do you agree with that, or is it kind of similar to the other sports where it's Big 12, big conference, playing a tough schedule? You really got to recruit the hell out of these kids to try to compete. But I think golf's a little different than, say, football. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Oh, very fair, because, in football, I would say in most every other sport that we have at West Virginia, the Big 12 hand you a schedule and say, this is your schedule. You're going to go to Iowa State and then they're coming here. You're going to Texas Tech and they're coming here, et cetera. For us, for golf, college golf is really, everything's kind of non-conference other than one or maybe two events the whole year. So the other ones I can kind of pick and choose where I want to go, right? But it's what conference you're in golf is not as important as it is for other sports. However, the Big 12 has a great tradition in golf. And you mentioned, right now, Scotty Scheffler, number one in the world, or most recently number one in the world. Jordan Spieth, Victor Hovland, and Matt Wolff. Like, those are guys that have been in the conference since we've been here. And you go back to Ben Crenshaw, Tom Kite, and Gary Woodland, Jimmy Walker, like all those guys, right? So it's a great tradition. So that's a big advantage for us.
Ricky Fowler.
To share a story with you, a couple years ago, because we're getting ready to go to this tournament called the Big 12 Match Play Championship, and it's you get 5 matches in 3 days. You get one session off, and it's you play 2 matches a day, but one day you do get either morning or afternoon off. But we've gone head to head against Texas, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and seen some great players. The first year they ever had it, Logan Perkins and Matt Sharpstein and Mark Getz were kind of on that team, and we had a freshman, Curtis Grant, who's now a fifth-year senior. But we were playing Oklahoma State, the defending national champions. Currently, at that time, they were number 1 in the country. They had Matt Wolff, who was the number 1 ranked college golfer in the country, and you had Victor Hovland, who just won the U.S. Am, number 1 ranked amateur in the world. Okay, and I had a freshman from Northern Virginia, Curtis Grant, solid player, but not reigning USAM champ. And I had Logan Perkins, who was kind of an under-recruited kid out of Georgia. So anyhow, we make the pairings with Oklahoma State. Then I go to the driving range to tell the guys, okay, here is who you're playing. And they're all excited, who am I playing? And I'll never forget, I said, Logan, you've got, Matt Wolff. And he's like, I'm about to wreck this guy. It just like, he was pumped. He was like, let's go. I think he even threw a ball down the range, hit a driver off the deck, just, out there 280. He's like, I'm about to murder this guy. I'm like, all right, I love the attitude.
I'm playing with Logan Sunday, by the way. Go ahead.
And I said, Curtis, you've got Victor Hovland. And he was a freshman. He goes, okay. And like his voice like cracked, it's like, okay, he was a little nervous. And then you had Logan, who was like, I'm about to wreck this guy.
Opposite ends of the spectrum, right?
And to their credit, they both played. They either went to the 16th or 17th hole against some of the best, in the country. And I think that match, even though we lost it, they're like, wow, we're not that far off, And so that was the year we went to the regional that year.
Tell the story of Hovland and Keenan and Matt Wolf down at the Greenbrier.
Yeah, so we ended up hosting the Big 12 Championship in 2019 at the Greenbrier. It was supposed to be, I think, at Southern Hills, and they were doing a renovation. So anyhow, we kind of stole that bid and got it at the Greenbrier. The week before was the Masters, and Victor Hovland was the low am at the Masters, and he was in Butler Cabin with Jim Nance and all that stuff. Well, then we're hosting, and we all the teams stay on site, so we had cottages down there, and I've got Kate and Keenan with me downstairs in the cottage, and upstairs the team is staying up there, and it's Keenan's bedtime, so it's like 9:30 or 10, so we're like, all right, got to get him to bed, and he was like, I don't know, 5 at the time, and wearing like a onesie, whatever, and I see somebody coming down the stairs in our cottage that's not a WVU golfer. I'm like, can I help you? And it was like the alternate, like the 6th guy for Oklahoma State. And he said, yeah, I'm looking for Logan Perkins. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He said, we'll get a poker game going tonight. So, we got the team coming over. I'm like, oh, you do? Because the poker room was like right next to my room downstairs. I was like, really? And then here comes Victor Hovland and Matt Wolf coming down the steps. And I'm like, okay, he was in Butler Cabin last week. Now he's in my cabin, and I'm like, hey, so I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? It's like, oh, hey, coach, those two guys could not have been nicer.
So you were at that point, how old were you?
Oh, I was
2 years ago, bud.
But
yeah,
so you're
40.
So you're intimidated by a 19 and 20-year-old.
Not intimidated. I was just like, what are they doing in my cottage?
Like, hey, boys, what's going on here?
Yeah, so Keenan, we take a picture with Victor and it's like, okay. I was like, you guys kind of just keep it down and, that's fine. So they play poker that night. The next day, Oklahoma State is teeing off first in the practice round, and we're teeing off last. So as we're going to the range, they're coming off the range going to number 1 tee at Old White. And I see their coach, and he's like, you boys kicked our ass last night. I said, what? He was like, yeah, apparently Sharp and Logan and whoever just took all our money. And I was like, well, if we can't beat you on the golf course, we'll beat you at the poker table. So
gamblers, baby. I love it. That's a great story. Yeah, and Keenan, I mean, my man, he fits right in.
Oh, yeah.
He could have sat there all night and just
he's enjoying life, yeah.
Guys.
Like I say, he gets his personality from his mom, but his good looks – well, from her as well. So I'm not sure what I'm bringing to the table. I don't know.
Quick interjection here. Jonathan's eating some biltong right now, which is South African style jerky, player brand biltong, and sponsored the show. Check them out online, player brand biltong. Birdie's 10 at the checkout aisle. That shit is dynamite.
It's good, bud.
It looks good on you too, man. So fast forward now to West Virginia Golf 2022. And as you mentioned earlier, you had some players in this short period come out pretty hot. Marquette, Max Spear, Sharpstein played in the USAM.
Yep. Etienne Papineau. Canadian.
Yeah.
He finished in the top like 20-ish on the Canadian tour, so he got to bypass first stage of Korn Ferry Tour, so he'll be at second stage. So that's definitely a name to keep an eye on.
So you got to feel proud about that. Those are your boys. Those are your kids. Obviously, you now have lifelong relationships with them. So. What's now looking forward? Where's the next Sharpstein? Where's the next Papineau? Where's the next Getz coming through the ranks of West Virginia? Anyone on the radar right now on the squad that you feel has that game and the ability to take it to the next level, or at least try to take it to the next level?
Well, I mean, as a coach, you feel like all 9 at some point. I mean, they're all on a different path. They're all on a different journey. Some kids are just freshmen figuring it out, and then you got a 5th-year senior like Curtis Grant, or another senior Trent Tipton, who has a lot of talent. So you literally never know. But it goes to recruiting, and you have to see something in a kid that you feel like, okay, he's got what it takes. And it's so hard to find because it's more of a mentality. Yes, talent for sure. But I could take you guys, we could just go to the US Junior or whatever, and you could be like, yeah, he's good. But who knows if they're going to pan out.
Mhm.
You know, you can start number one junior golf scoreboard, the number one ranked player, and offer him a scholarship. If he tells you no, you go to number two. You can do it that way, but your culture and, you know, the kind of the vibe of your team is not going to be great. I feel like you got to find the right fit. And that's what we've been doing the last probably 4 or 5 years, because you're going to end up traveling with these guys for their whole career. So you just want good people is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And so that's what it comes down to. But I feel like we've got a really good squad right now, and we've already got 2 commitments for the class of 23. We've already got 2 commitments for the class of 24. It literally the hour before I came here, I was researching 25, you know, putting stuff in the mail to them. And, you know, those are kids that are sophomores in high school right now. So
Yeah.
It never stops. I mean, as soon as you get 1 or 2 guys, you're on to the next few. But to answer your question, I don't want to say, well, this kid's going to make it and this kid's not. I honestly, I feel like every kid that we recruit for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And we feel like eventually they can make it. To give you an example, Avery Schneider, who's a name you've probably never heard of, right now he is in the top, I think, 5 at the first stage Corn Ferry Q school, and he only played a couple tournaments for us, but he's kept at it. He's got better. Did all the mini tours and stuff in Florida, and now he's you know, who knows him? He's beating Getz right now up there. So you never know when a kid's going to figure it out.
Oh, and that's the truth about the game. I mean, you never know what person's going to show up on any given day.
Well, I mean, you look at like players like Keegan Bradley. I mean, he didn't light college up.
He went
like
to St. John's.
Yeah, like you would have thought. I mean, now he's a major champion. There's more of that, I would say, in the PGA Tour than you think, as far as people that weren't the greatest college golfers and they developed their game after the their education in college golf.
So right now in the fall, we're in the thick of things. I know you just played at the Gopher Invitational, finished 14th there.
13th.
Sorry,
We beat one team.
Uh,
Thanks for bringing that up.
Sorry, no, I went.
I'm kidding.
But I was so looking ahead. I mean, I know you got Isleworth. Is that in the fall?
Yeah, it's in a couple weeks.
Weeks.
Yep.
And that's put on by Florida. No,
Central Florida.
UCF. Yeah. So what's kind of the prep work look like there? I mean, how can you argue playing Isleworth, right? That course is phenomenal. Amazing greens. Tough course. I mean, you stand on number 2 or 3, the par 3?
Number 2. Yeah.
Buddy, I would love it. Like, have you played Isleworth?
I can't get on.
No, but number 2 is a par 3, like 250 out of a chute.
So it's like 3 at Pikewood.
But tighter. And you got water on the right.
And the wind's usually coming off the left, going to the right. Yeah.
Sweet. Sounds like a good hole.
It's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah, number 1, you hit like a wedge in there, and you're like, okay, it's not bad. And then you step on 2, and it just, whoa, it's tough. And there's a reason Tiger was a member there in the, you know, his early professional career. I mean, that's a great place to practice. And if you can play that course, definitely chipping and putt it around that place, it's good. So yeah, we're excited to be, you know, going to that event. How do you prepare? That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that, because this year we've totally revamped the way we practice, the way we qualify, the way we work out, the way we keep stats. You know, last year was a disappointing finish. The last 3 events, I had 2 of the best that have ever played here, Mark Getz and Logan Perkins, and we set all kind of records, especially out in Las Vegas last year. We won that tournament, and then we finished really bad. And I think it came back to really discipline, routine, how we practice, and me as a coach, really. And so I spent the whole summer like, okay, how can we structure practice, our routine, our mentality to where, look, hey, we finished 13th in Minnesota or we finished 3rd. It's not going to change anything. Like, this is what we do. This is how we prepare, and not let the results dictate, you know, how we feel about ourselves or how we prepare for the next tournament. And that's why I'm excited about this team, because we did not, you know, on the scoreboard, it wasn't the best, and, you know, we could have done better. But as far as the way we prepared, their attitude and the things we wanted them to focus on, they get A+ there. And that's what I told them, like, just keep at it.
You keep doing the right thing, good things are going to happen, right? And that's the work ethic. You know, you get into a routine and make it fun to where they're excited to get to practice and compete with one another, but do it the right way.
Yeah.
You do it the right way, good things will happen down the road. I mean, you talk to any professional athlete, that's what they say, right? Results will follow.
And especially this sport, how many times do you see a guy miss a cut and then the next week he wins?
Yeah.
You got to be able to deal with missing a cut or failure or just, I shot 80, I don't know what happened.
The highs and lows.
And I feel like if I was on your team now, maybe not when I was 18, but now, you and I would resonate because I feel like you're very, you have kind of a different outlook on things, mentality-wise. You're very into the mental aspect of the game. For example, I remember playing Pete Dow with you, number 4, and you're like, the hardest pin on this hole is a front right pin. Whereas a back left pin, even though you got to carry the water and it's longer, it's straight, right?
Just carry the water, you're fine.
Yeah,
you got
and
80 yards to work with.
I'll never forget that. Every time I step on Pete Dye, number 4, par 3.
I'm still hitting the water.
I can still hit in the water, which I do. But I think about what Covich told me. I'm like, that makes fucking sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I feel like you as a coach have that mentality, that aspect to kind of reduce things down to a basic level of understanding for these kids and make them feel more comfortable at what they're trying to execute. And I think that's nod to you. I mean, that's a good approach for doing things.
Well, yeah, we try to, keep it in perspective. That's number one. And, back to what we're talking about, just prepare as good as you can. And then when that ball leaves your club face, you really can't do much about it. And, there's a quote we have in our yardage books, like you get good breaks from bad shots and you get bad breaks from good shots. You got to live with them both.
Yeah.
And so that's, it's tough. And then like with the stats, there's so much data now that I think it helps your expectation management. So if you hear kids like, oh, I hadn't made a putt all day. It's like, well, how far have your putts been? Well, I had 20 feet, and then I had 15 feet, then I had 14 feet, then I had 20 feet. I'm like, well, PGA Tour pros miss more than they make from those distances. Once you get inside 8 feet, now you should expect to make it.
Right.
So like, let's have some expectation reality here.
Reasonable expectations, right?
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, college kids have egos, and rightfully so. They're Division I golfers, but at the same time, like what you're saying, put things in perspective. I mean, you're not going to make it 4 20-footers every round.
Right.
You're just not going to. But like you said, you get a little closer, then you can start complaining if you're missing 8 and 9-footers on a consistent basis. I mean, like how many fairways have you hit? Things like that. Whenever I played at Marshall with Brandon Katzeff, we didn't have all that. I mean, we basically had, I think it was Golf Stat then, right?
Right,
Are
yeah.
they still around?
Probably traditional stats like fairways and reg and greens
exactly.
and reg.
That's all we had.
They don't give you kind of the shot expectation, from their strokes gained approach. But one of the big things I tell our guys, there's really not a big difference between a 74 and a 68 a lot of times. Now, it looks like it on the scoreboard. Like if you shoot 74, he shoots 68, everybody's like, oh, he played awesome, you played terrible. Like, look, he hit the rock and it went up there. He probably should have made double bogey. He makes a 2. That's a 4-shot swing.
Right.
You lip out once or twice or it hits a limb, goes out of bounds. Those are the only 2 bad shots you had all day. 6
shots right there.
Yeah, and a good example, Logan Perkins has the lowest round in school history. It's a 62. He shot that at the Florida Gator Invitational in 2020. And we went back, and he really probably should have shot at about 73 that day. But, so the first hole out of bounds all the way down the right, he blocks it out right, and we think that's out of bounds. And he has to hit another one. So we're like 1, 2, hitting 3. Well, the first one actually hit a limb, came back in. He punched it up there, chips in, makes birdie. Like, well, should have made double, made birdie. And that just snowballed. That was his whole round. He was making 40-footers. He was doing – I'm not saying he didn't play great, but he'll tell you, like, I got a lot out of that round, And then even later that year, we played the Big 12 championship. Trent Tipton shot a 71 in the 3rd round, and then we played 4 rounds there, and he shot a 71 in the final round. Looks like, he played consistent. That 71 in the 3rd round should have been a 67. I mean, he left so many putts just right on the edge. Yeah. And then the last round shot 71, and he probably should still be on the par 5 because he hit about 8 balls off the tee, but we found the first one, we got through there, but he should probably still be out there playing that hole. So But you got to tell the guys that, like, don't get so wrapped up in the number.
Yeah.
The number doesn't tell the whole story, right? And there's not a big difference sometimes in a 68 and a 74.
You focus on one shot at a time. That's Bob Bertella to a T. One shot at a time. It's not the previous shot. It's not the next hole. It's not. You focus on that shot, and that's all you can worry about. Things will work out in your favor eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do, again, back to do things the right way, play smart on the golf course. It's funny. We play with enough golfers now, Ryan and I. And in college, I was, again, full throttle. Just you hit 3-wood, who cares where it goes, and go find it, right? Well, now that you're kind of smarter and a little bit older, that 40-yard bunker shot is probably the hardest shot in golf. And I can't tell you how many people that we play golf with still just hit their shot and it goes in there, and you watch them try to hit this 40-yard bunker shot. I'm like, dude, that's the hardest shot on the PGA Tour is a 40-yard bunker shot, right? So now you're playing a little smarter. Hey, that 6-iron can't get me to that bunker. I know that I'm good. And it's just player course management. And again, I think you learn that over time as well. I mean, when you're 18 years old, you think that you can fly every bunker out there and reach every par 5 and 2, and
yeah, it's more about avoiding the big numbers.
Exactly.
As a good player, you should get a number of birdie looks. Some days are more, some days are less. But if you can avoid, the X, the double bogey or higher, that's huge. Like yesterday, we did a game where it was a Stableford scoring system, but if you made double bogey or higher, you lost all your points that you had accumulated. So we're trying to send a message like there is such a thing as a good bogey. Yeah, you just move on, make a bogey. And so because when you make a double, not that it's a huge deal, but it just kills so much momentum. Mm-hmm. If you make a bogey, you just make a birdie somewhere before the day's over and you made that up. You can't do that with the double or higher.
If you can reduce your doubles to bogeys, that's huge right there off the bat. My mom, when I was in college, told me, and again, I didn't even think of anything at the time, but she's right now if you really look back on it. If you can play the par 3s, all 4 par 3s, even par, you're ahead of the field.
That's been a huge emphasis for us this year, par 3 greens and regulation. So every day we do something with greens and regulation, but when you step on a par 3, the points are tripled. Mm-hmm. We're just trying to send a message like just get the ball on the green because they always play over par. And that was a huge emphasis for us at Minnesota. And that was one thing that we did well. We played the par 3s pretty well. We didn't beat ourselves up. Now, we might have had a couple of 3-putts, and that's why we made a bogey. But it wasn't because we're trying to fire at a pin with a 4-iron.
Right.
Like we hit the middle of the green, and we took our chances making a 2 or 3 most of the time. And I thought we played the par 3s well. And that's been a big emphasis is, okay, how can we – what's the low-hanging fruit is what we talk about. Like, what's one thing we can do that's pretty easy and not try to, like I said, just fire it at every flag on par 3s. Like, understand par 3s always play over par. So if we can play them even par, we'll pick up at least a shot, right?
Who would have thought Debbie Pepe? Huh?
Deb. God bless her soul.
So what about your golf game? And we talked enough about your career. Yeah, how's your golf game been?
Turn to Sean Covich personally now, outside of the coaching realm. Which, by the way, kudos to you on the whole thing with WVU golf. But yeah,
thank you.
What's you dieting right now? What's up?
Yes. So let's start there, and then I can talk about the 2018 Pete Dye Club Championship a little bit if you want to, Bash.
Let's talk about. Let's talk about it.
One shot, but let's go back to the to the lost weight thing. It actually started last year, coaches convention out in Las Vegas, right? I think Las Vegas is one of those places where you just go, what am I doing with my life? Like that seems to happen there. But for some reason I was like, you know what? Probably should lose a few pounds here because these Peter Millar pants, like they're starting to not fit, you know what I'm saying? So I just said, but honestly, and you guys probably have read this book, talked about this book maybe before, or if not, you need to check it out. But Atomic Habits is the name of it. And it's just little small habits, And so I started reading that book and I was like, okay. And he mentioned intermittent fasting. I was like, I'll try it for a week, and now here we are almost 12 months later. And it's just a way of life, So
what's your routine?
I just, no calories, just water and gum and coffee. That's black coffee. In the morning until about either noon or 1. And then I eat whatever I want, until 8 or 9 at night and then shut it down. no late night snacks, no ice cream, before bed or anything like that. But you basically have a window. Some people do 6 hours. I do eight hours, and the rest of the day, so 16 hours, I don't eat. But guess what? I sleep for 8 of those.
Yeah.
Right. So it's pretty simple.
So you can drink as much water and have as much black coffee as you want.
Yep. Sugar-free gum. Yeah.
Might be something
Or
for
tea,
you, but
or you can do tea or whatever. So yeah,
I might have to look into that, eh?
it's awesome. And I look forward to eating now, rather than like you're just kind of constantly snacking and you're like not excited about it. But now, like right now, I'm ready for this lunch whenever I get out of here.
So like when you're actively eating now, do you care what you eat?
No, that's the beauty of it. Now I do. What's funny is like when you put that work in, kind of that mental discipline. When you do eat, you kind of like, okay, let's kind of be smart about it,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it frees you up. And then look, I'm not just like 100% like hardcore about it. Like if Kate and Keenan were in like Hershey, PA, and they're like, hey, let's go get some ice cream, what it is. Okay. Like I'll do that.
Yeah.
I just don't follow a bad day with another bad day. Start a good streak.
Back to that mental aspect.
I'll just smoke cigars until about 1 o'clock.
That's perfect.
And then,
cigars and coffee.
Yeah.
It's perfect. That should be the name of the other podcast you do.
Tequila, bud. Huh? I'm on a little bit
Now
of
he's on
tequila.
tequila. I mean, the kid played Troubadour last week, and now all he talks about is tequila.
Oh.
Which, I mean, they do serve it there pretty heavy.
It is heavy there.
But it's a good alternative to the beers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes you like to have a beer every now and then, maybe a Mick Ultra.
So
Yes.
I got to find out about the event he was talking about with you at Pete Dye, bud. What happened?
We won a club championship 2018. Was it 2018?
Yeah. Yes, I think it was 2018.
Choke, bud?
19. It was either 18 or 19.
He played good.
I can't remember.
I played good.
Yeah, but I was making everything. We talked about Logan's round. I had one of those. I chipped in. I was making 40-footers. But you had a shot. I don't know if you remember this on number 6. So I took the lead by like 1 or 2. It was the final round. So 6 at Pete Dye.
Yep.
You had like a wedge, and you kind of didn't hit it great. It hit the rock wall right in front of the green, and it bounced up and it went on the cart path.
Yeah.
And they had just redid the cart path with these curbs, right? So the ball just started slowly trickling down the fairway. It came back at least 150 yards.
Yeah. Rode the path.
Because I asked the pro at the time, Higgs, I was like, can I park the cart just to stop the ball? Because like it's gonna go back. And he's like, yeah, you can't interfere with your opponent's ball. I'm like, all right. And it literally just went all the way back. And I think you ended up making bogey or double.
Yeah,
on that hole, and you had a wedge in your hand. And here I am. The rest of history, I'll be club champ that year. So
but to your point there, I don't know if it was the same year. Maybe it was. But remember what happened on 15 at Pete Dye?
Oh yes. I hit the ball 4 times, but made a 6. Yeah,
and made a 6.
Yeah.
I mean, that was unbelievable.
So I pulled it left over that mound.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tall grass over there, and it was unplayable. So the way that hole was angled, if I were to take an unplayable lie, 2 club lengths didn't get me out of the stuff. And I didn't want to go back and re-hit because I could hit in the water, hit in the same spot, or I could keep that point between me and the hole and go as far back as I want. But I had to go to 14, and then that'd be longer than the tee box.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I've got no option here. So I thought, well, I'll take 2 club lengths, and when I drop it, hopefully it's in a better spot than it is now. And I dropped it, and it was in a worse spot. So now the ball's in play. I've already taken a penalty, and it's in a worse spot, and I'm still in the tall stuff. So I go, well, same option. So I drop it again, and it barely gets into the rough, but now instead of, hitting my second shot, I'm hitting, my fourth shot. Yeah. And I can only hit like an 8-iron. So I hit my 4th shot out there. Then I still have like a 7-iron in, hit that on the back of the green and drain it. Drain it for a 6. And
you remember this, bud?
Yeah.
Because you were like, what'd you have there? An 8? And I'm like, oh, it was a 6. You're like, you were like doing the math. You're like, gosh, how'd you make a 6? I'm like, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and make a 40-footer.
Yeah.
The hamster was on the wheel and bashed his head there, huh?
I mean, I was lost, but I mean, I needed a Garmin. But we had so many good times playing. That's why I said earlier, like we did not get to do that this year, which I'm a little disappointed about. But next year, the return of Bash and Covich to the course, man.
I hope so. But like I told you guys at the beginning of the podcast, my goal this year was to either recruit or to be with Kate and Keenan, and that was it. and I turned 42 this year, and it was the most fun since I was probably 23. I had a good summer then, but when I was 42 this year, I had so much fun watching Keenan. Like, I got to caddy for him. He was playing in Callaway Junior events or Hurricane Junior Golf Tour. He was doing travel baseball, and now he's doing flag football because they're only 10 for however long, and he still thinks I'm kind of cool and wants to hang out, and that's going to go away, and who knows when, maybe tomorrow, but so I got to take advantage of that.
Well, that's true.
Once he gets to college, then we can hang out all we want. Yeah,
and sometimes too, to your point, like sometimes there's times where I don't want to go play golf anymore right now. Like, I need a couple of days off.
Yeah, you want to look forward to it. A couple of days off.
I mean, really.
For me, it's a month or so, but yeah.
Yeah, well, really cool story with basically starting the whole golf program at West Virginia University.
Really cool.
It's like starting a business, and
a successful one though, bud.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So, yeah, really cool story, Coach. We're gonna transition this to the last segment here of the show, called the Tap In segment, brought to you by Bettinardi Golf. And my man's gonna ask you some questions here that demand your quick-witted response.
Got it.
All right. Favorite music to play on the course?
Right now I'm into like Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors. That's kind of a big one, or the Revivalist. But just not standard stuff, but just whatever, feel good kind of music.
Dream foursome.
Oh, wow. Gosh. I should have known that was coming. Yeah. I would just go with like, I'll probably regret this answer, but like John Daly would be a lot of fun. And then even though he doesn't play golf and like can seem abrasive at times, but Eddie Vedder would be fun to play with Eddie. And then after that, probably just go with somebody that's always in a good mood. So we'll just throw Bash in there.
All right.
Let's go, baby.
Dream
John Daly, Eddie Vedder. That's pretty good.
That's great.
Me and you.
Yeah. Let's go. I love it.
All right. Favorite part of being a college golf coach?
Oh man. Just all of it. I mean, it's a challenge. It's a lot of like frustration, but at the same time, when you see kids achieve their goal and do stuff they never thought they could do, because you see the ups and downs, like freshmen that feel like they'll never get in the lineup, and then a couple of years later they're winning tournaments. That's the coolest part, is just seeing kids go from being 17, 18 years old to 23 to 25 and winning. So just kids getting better and watching that.
Well, you're their second father too, in reality. I mean, they see you more than their own father for 4 years. And so you play a big, important role to these college kids and molding them into men. So kudos to you. All right, last one. What are you chasing?
Yes. I knew that one was coming because I listened to the cast a lot. So I thought my answer, this is my answer, was like presence, like being where you are. Because I think right now, especially with the phone and email and like your schedule, it's just like just being there, just being where you are, rather than like, oh, I need to get here, I need to do that, and especially with social media. And I see with our kids all the time, like they're just like, what's everybody else doing? That's every time you open Instagram, is you're saying, I'm not having fun where I am right now, so I want to see what other people are doing. And now there's a place and time. I use social media a lot. Like I try to use it to promote our program,
right.
but as far as personally, just trying to chase being where I'm at and getting the most out of this moment, like this podcast with you guys hanging out, because we haven't hung out in a while. You're like, hey, this is it. And now whatever I have the rest of the afternoon, just be there. And then qualifying is going to happen this weekend, so I can worry about qualifying when it starts, rather than, worried about that now. So anyhow, just trying to chase being present, I think
that's awesome. That's the hardest thing to do. If you can be present, it
is very hard.
One of my favorite quotes, and I'm kind of butchering it a little bit, but it's the past and the future are merely illusions, for they only exist in the present, which is all there is. It's from a type of metaphysical standpoint, but it's true though. When you think about it, this is all we have right now.
I know.
So
and
be in it.
Yeah. So just enjoy it, because how many times when you look back, like, man, that was a lot of fun, but I was just kind of thinking about other stuff. And that's the hard thing for a coach, because my job is to plan, next week, next semester, next year, recruits for 24, 25, so I'm constantly like
in the future
all the time planning ahead. So I have to really chase being present, and so that's kind of what I'm after.
Awesome.
Well, that's awesome,
Good stuff.
Coach. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy coaching days.
Yeah.
And spending some time with us here with Ryan Bashauer.
And Jonathan Pepe.
You guys keep it up. I mean, it's been awesome following the cast, and glad I was able to catch up and be on it.
We're stoked to have you on here. Thanks again.
Our man, Coach Covich. It's such a cool story to see. You talk about chasing birdies. Yeah, he's just doing that on the golf course, but he literally started the WVU golf program from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him an office in a cubicle as the head golf coach at WVU, and he has built it to a very, very strong program in the Big 12 and across the nation. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
WVU golf has been really, really good the last 3 or 4 years, and it's fun to watch. So, Coach Covich, you're the man. Thanks for coming on.
Hats off, man.
It was a blast, dude. And Coach Covich, I just saw him up at Nemacolin. It was, they were up there qualifying, so it's a great time to go to Nemacolin. Thank you to them for always supporting us. Right now is a great freaking time to be at Nemacolin. The leaves are turned, beautiful out. So go check them out at nemacolin.com.
Yeah, and you know what, bud? It's funny you said that because Covich, his dietary restrictions sort of bled over to you now. I guess you're intermittent fasting like he does. But in case you keep
I am
fasting,
right now, bud.
I know, but in case you keep doing it, dude, you got to get that player brand biltong. Get the jerky. We got several packs. Check them out online. Player brand biltong. Type in Birdies 10 at the checkout aisle. Get yourself some of this great jerky. Take it on the course. Fast with it like Pep. And you lose some weight. It tastes great. So thank you, biltong. Next guest, man, is the guy, Damon West, author, coming out with a short film, has a success story like no other, was behind bars, turned his life around after being sentenced for over 60 years in prison. And now he's talking to the guys like Kirby Smart. Dabo Sweeney is one of his closest allies. So the next episode here on Chasing Birdies is with Damon West. So be sure to do a little research on him, and it's a hell of an episode. I cannot wait for this one to come out.
Dude, it is a hell. I mean, we were both dead quiet when he was telling this story. He was chasing birdies for all the wrong reasons in life, coming out of college, and it's a great story. It's inspirational. It proves that, you can be dealt a bad hand, but it's what you make of it. And make sure you go check his book out, Be a Coffee Bean, because it is a really easy read.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So anyways, guys, let's get out there this weekend. Chase some birdies. Zozo Championship kicking off today. And I'll tell you what, my man. I think it's going to be another good weekend out here. And you got anything else you want to say, bud?
I like that.
Troubadour.
Yeah, bud.
You hooked it up, man. Hooked it up.
It's good. Good logo. Good spot. Anyways, chasingbirdies.com. Go over there, check it out. People have been picking up merch over the last 2 weeks with the promo code. Make sure you buy yourself some. We appreciate the support. Tell your friends, family to like, subscribe, listen, and tell a good word.
That's right, y'all. Keep checking us out here. And also, big shout out to Simpler Media Evo for your team putting this thing together, and our social team, Rachel London, Jacqueline DiPaterio, for all your help. You girls kick ass, and we appreciate it. Y'all have a good weekend. Keep chasing.